Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Talent You Should Know, where we focus on the entertainment industry on a different level. Not only will there be artist and actor interviews of known and unknown talent, but insight into the team behind them that helps them build their brand. Each week, we'll tackle a different person in the industry with talents in their own rights. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Talent You Should Know. Tonight, we have a really special guest, Aichelle White. I was thinking, like, when I, heard you in Clubhouse, I was like, this is going to be one of, the most important interviews, I think, to me and to my listeners who are going into, the music industry.
Wow.
That's just me, listening to what you had to say and understanding what I wanted to accomplish, as far as this podcast in the vein of, in the lane of education, right? Because, right. I think that's really, or really should be the foundation of a music career is educating yourself, right? Just all around. So, what I liked, just in looking at your history, is that it's always been focused on music. Like there was no deviation, from your path. And I thought that was awesome because me, it's like I wanted to get into music, and then, I had my daughter, so then I had to, you know what I mean? So there were just a lot of avenues before I got back around to it. So what was like the first inkling, like, hey, I want to get into music?
Well, I grew up in a family full of musicians. Like my grandmother was a clarinet majorette, or I don't even know what that is, but she played the clarinet. My uncles was, of course, hip hop heads. One of my uncle actually toured across the world as a positive spoken word, or not spoken word. Well, he did do spoken word, but a hip hop artist. And I just was surrounded by it. Like it was everywhere, all the time. It was just it. That was just music.
It's funny. I played the clarinet all the way until I got to high school. I was like first chair, all that good stuff. But then it was like band or chorus. And then, so I just went to chorus, and that's kind of like where I went. But so you went to Milwaukee Tech College, and you made you're focused in music operations. And what is that?
Well, okay. So they didn't really, like when I was in school, they didn't really have a term for it. Like I have a bachelor's degree, right? And my bachelor's degree is in music administration.
Right.
And while you were in school, like you were probably in high school, like, what am I going to do with trigonometry when I get out of high school?
Fact.
So I was like, what am I going to do with music administration or music occupations?
Right.
And then it was like, as I grew, I understood what it was. It was like, whatever I decided to do on the business side of music, in music.
Right.
So it was like, if I wanted to be a publisher, a manager, that wasn't really talked about at that time. Yeah. Like when I was at MATC, it wasn't really talked about. It was either you're going to be a singer, a songwriter, or like a band member. It wasn't, those things weren't really talked about.
Right. Well, I thought it was super smart. Like you did, like you said, music, music administration and public relations, which obviously is intertwined. And then you got your master's in professional writing, which, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, she knows what she's doing. Because the thing about it is, and it's not even just about writing music, it's like writing grants, reading contracts, writing out contracts, or writing out a writer, you know what I mean? And so it's just so interesting how that all tied in, and that was intentional.
Well, okay. So I actually wanted to go, I wanted to write, I just wanted to be a songwriter. That was my original thing. Like I was going to get into music, and I was going to be a songwriter. Like I was a poet. I'm just going to write songs, and that was going to be it. Right. But then the more I started to read and the more I started to watch, the more I was just like, oh, wait, no, there's not really money there.
Yeah.
where is the money going? And I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out like who was getting all of the money, because it wasn't the artist. It wasn't like I would read stories about producers and different people wasn't getting paid, and I was like, well, where is the money going?
Right.
And then when I followed the trail of where the money goes, I was like, oh, I need to educate myself on this side of
Right.
the music, because I didn't understand. Like I'm a writer by nature, so of course when I went to for my master's, I'm 9 credits away from finishing that. I
Got it.
will finish that one day.
Right.
But while I was there, I understood how um, how the media portrays things.
Right.
So when I started to understand, like that's how I understood how artists could look like they were living a fabulous life,
Right.
but were broke
Actually be
and they
broke.
couldn't afford to buy their parents' house.
Right.
Someone who understands your vision and someone who believes in you, because it's easy to get somebody that's just like, okay, I'm gonna put you here, but if you don't really believe in me or my talent or even what I'm trying to do, is going to be difficult. Like if you have your own agenda, everyone needs to be on the same page.
Right. And so we said, now what did we say the main four? It was the
Accountant, manager, publicist, and entertainment lawyer.
right. And then you said social media and content creation.
Social media and content.
So as far as the accountant, a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm just going to go to my family accountant. Are there, talk to me because there's the face. Tell me.
Well, I would say just to go to a professional certified accountant,
Okay.
because the last thing you want is to get a knock on the door from the federal government
Facts. Because we've seen it.
multiple times.
Right. Right. And I also had an attorney. I had an attorney on previously, and I have one on coming up. And one was an entertainment attorney, but the other one is a trademark attorney.
Yes.
So,
Yes, yes, yes.
so as far as like an entertainment attorney, I say this. It might be in every interview, and I'm like, so you're gonna spend $5,000 on a chain, but you don't want to spend 500 on an attorney to run through your contract. Like,
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
we
need
don't.
you
We
to.
don't want to do that. We want to spend thousands on videos, but we don't even want to make sure that we have the proper sync license in place while we're spending money on videos. We don't. We don't want to. We don't want to be rich. We want to look rich.
Right. And so, do you have like comment, because what you were talking about in the group, you were talking about things that people need to look out for, and I think we were talking about contracts as well. So, do you have some key things?
Yes. If you are leasing music, you definitely want to read your leasing agreements. I always suggest either connecting with a producer. If your homeboy, your homegirl makes music, connect with them, build a relationship with them because they can craft a sound. Most times people lease beats and don't understand that they can only some beat leases say you can only sell 5,000. You can't monetize it. You can only be on one or two radio stations. Of course, not radio is still around, but it's
Right.
not as prevalent. But just read whatever you sign up for, whatever you sign, read it before you sign it.
Right. So
That's the most important. Read and know what you're signing.
now, going back to Muse Sample, going back to your company, that to me is like the missing piece between the original artist and the new one, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
just like, to me, that's what that link is. Do you think that as we go on that um people will understand the value of it? Because I really feel like if you compound the amount of lawsuits within the past few years regarding samples, people will look at it and say, you know what? So what is your focus now with it?
My focus now is to provide the education as to why you should ask to clear the sample,
Right.
as well as what you can do once the sample is cleared. So providing the basic education on the why, the how, and what you can do with it.
Right. At what point do you think, because, and can you tell me the difference, because actually a little bit confused with this. When people are doing mixtapes, they're just out there with like every track you could find, and then they just, doing whatever over it. How is that okay? Because because
It's not.
it's not okay.
It's not okay. It's just something that people were just doing for forever, and they could just continue to do it. Like I hear artists say, "I'll just do this right now, and then if people catch on to it, then I'll worry about it when they get there." But the actuality of it is like I would tell people, I'm gonna go on record. This would be the first time I said it publicly. 2021, I'm gonna go on record and say, if you are in 2021 and you're still doing mixtapes, you are wasting your time. That's time you can put into your own album, EP, single. You can
Right.
put somewhere else.
Right.
We are in 2021. We've seen too many artists get caught in jams for mixtapes, and it's 2021.
And the thing about that is correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it, even with music, all it has to be is a 20% difference? Isn't
It,
that like the legal parameter of like from plagiarism to, an actual original?
actually, it's the moment you recreate it,
Uh-huh.
you're actually infringing on someone's copyright.
Got it. Got it.
The actual recreation or the actual putting it on a track is infringing on someone's copyright.
So how do you copyright? I know how do you copyright lyrics because I do that all the time, but how do you copyright music?
It's the sound recording. So you have the PA is for the lyrics, the composition, but
Uh-huh.
that's why they have you send in or upload a copy of the actual recording.
Right.
So everything that's in that on that MP3 or wave or whatever version you send, that's the sound that's attached to that copyright.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's how when it happened with Robin Thicke and
For real.
Pharrell,
Uh-huh.
it was you could actually hear everything that was
Man, they tried
that
their
was
best, didn't they? Because even
they
when I
did.
first heard it, I was like, no, no. And then they broke it down somewhere, and I was like,
So when I first I grew up on like music from back then. Like you could tell now if you're listening to an artist,
yeah,
you can tell if it was inspired by an
right,
older track
right,
because it has that feel for it. Like
right,
the majority of the music now don't have a feel unless it has that
right,
older music, the older feeling for it.
right. And that's what I actually appreciate about people who actually have live bands.
Yes, yes, yes,
Or
yes, yes.
as far as their team or what have you, because then you know that, like, honestly, the music is really coming straight from them. And even if you hear similarities from something in the past, they're already putting their own spin on it because
Yeah,
from their soul or what have you, right? Like,
yeah.
there's a hip hop group. Oh, what is it called? I can't remember, but I interviewed them, and everyone, like, there was the hip hop artist. They had a drummer, they had a keyboardist, and they had a horn player. And I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing. But it was magic. It was magic.
I believe it. I put wait, was it last year? Nope, it was 2019. I put together a concert series that I call MKE Live Groove Edition. And
Okay.
so I would take different hip hop artists and singers and I would put them with the live band. Hip hop artists are used to singing, putting just, hey, let me rap over my track. No, we're going to put you in front of a live band. We're
Yeah.
going to elevate you. We're going to elevate you to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
That means you got to know your song.
Uh huh.
You're not going to be jumping all around the stage because now
Yeah.
you have to actually perform.
Right. And I remember when Anne Marie came out with Why Don't We Fall in Love and One Thing, and people were like, is that a live band? And I said, how smart is that? Because
Yes.
even Why Don't We Fall in Love, you hear the live instrumentation in the I mean, like, it was such a great move because then it was almost like that's what she was known for, that sound.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And that's why I encourage artists to connect with producers to build their own sound. Like there's so many, like there's a rare occasion that you will find an artist with a unique sound
Uh-huh.
because everyone is trying to ride the wave of the current sound.
Right. 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 And I remember, you remember when Autotune first came out with T-Pain?
Oh,
And, and
yeah.
and they said after a while they said people had to ask T-Pain if they could use autotune because he was the only one who knew how to do it properly. And that's really the truth. Like he didn't he could also just sing in general, but he used it in a way where it wasn't offensive, you know?
Right. Right. It just sweetened his voice a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so another important thing I think is having a publicist. And I
Yeah.
and this is kind of a two-part thing because I was talking to a publicist a couple of weeks ago, and she said the common misconception is that we're not managers. This is not what we do, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, at what point would you say that that an artist should get a publicist?
Well, I honestly think like the moment someone decides that they want to be an artist, I think that they should sit down with someone who does publicity.
Uh huh.
Because from the moment you decide that, your eyes are going to be on you. So you
Right.
want your brand, you want everything you do to be in line with who you are as an artist.
Right.
So I would say when you're thinking about doing it, sit down and see like what direction, like even like what you should post. Like there's so many artists that post things that just be like, I can't believe they just posted that.
Listen. Listen.
But then you want me to take you serious as an artist. I mean,
Right.
I listen, I've seen a lot of people post a lot of things and I just be like, whew,
Yeah.
wow.
So, as far as management goes, what are some of the questions that an artist should ask a manager before they decide to hire them?
I know everyone is like, who have you worked with before? But that's just like, I could have worked with Taylor Swift or Kanye West, but you are a totally different person. The first one is, have you heard my music? Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
That should be one and two. Have you heard my music? Do you know what I am? Who I am? What do you think would be a good route for me to take?
Right.
How do you think I should best represent myself on social media?
Right.
Like these are, it's for me, it's the most basic things that you should ask. Like, what do you think about this idea? Like just ask them questions that you would ask someone you're about to date.
Right.
Because you're
Well,
essentially forming a relationship with them.
some people don't even ask those questions, but just, you know.
Well, I see what you're saying, but I
Yes,
feel like
I honestly,
you're having
yeah.
a relationship with them, so you should definitely ask them questions like, what if I have a situation? Like, what do I do in a situation? Like, you
Right.
should just ask them the most basic things you think were like, I don't know if I should ask that. That you definitely should ask that question.
And you know what's so funny about that is that I was just reading up on, a few people who are, in the news, artists, that are, in a few binds, and it's like I know who their management team was, and I know who their new management team is now, right? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
when they were with certain people, you never heard about anything
Never.
because their manager was probably like, don't go there, don't do this.
No.
But the new one is like, well, now you're this person, so you can
Yeah.
do what you want or what have you. And so that and it's those things that you see and you're like, okay, um maybe I shouldn't be working with you.
Yeah, and then like whoever you put on your team, you got to make sure they believe in you and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like people that like, of course, everyone is doing this because they want to. There's a financial goal. There, everyone has that. But the most basic thing should be we're working together for a vision. Your
Right.
vision. That's where we're going.
Yeah. And then the other thing was trademarking. And I mentioned that because they're different they're different views on that, right? And someone said, like me, I'm trademarking, it's like already basically done, talent you should know, right? And I'm doing that
Mm-hmm.
because that is what is out here in the media. And even though the company, even though it's like fairly new, I know A, where it's going, and B,
Right.
because it's such a catchy phrase, I know that like
You
it's something,
gotta
it's something I
you
got to do
gotta do it
quick.
because if you don't do it, somebody else will do it.
Someone else's, and once I start doing merch and all this other stuff, and that's why, and
Uh,
it's super expensive. Like I'm, it's not the cheapest thing, but for someone say who's not me, right, and not in this kind of position, when's the best time to start trademarking like your name or trademarking anything?
So, so the funny thing is, here in Wisconsin, I figured out, like you could trademark your name in each state. Like Wisconsin, it's $15 to trademark your name, for 10 years in Wisconsin. Of course, wherever you are, whatever state you're in, you can look and see how much it costs for that state. If you can't
Right,
afford to trademark your name, your merch ID, if you can't afford to do all of that, at least trademark it in your state. So
right,
that means anyone who comes into your state with that name, you could, handle
right.
your business because you're
That's
there. You're
interesting.
on that name in that state.
So why does it cost so much for?
I believe it's because it's a national trademark. Like wherever it is, it could be
Right,
used.
right, right. Got
But
it.
that was me. Like, okay, you don't have enough money to afford this. And then I woke up and I was like, no, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on like videos and recording and
Right,
outfits for your videos. No, no, no. Go ahead and pay for that trademark. It's a
right.
great investment. Like I was telling someone, I said, if you think about celebrities when they have kids, you ever wonder why they never just throw their kid's name out there? Like when Beyonce had Blue Ivy, she didn't just throw her name out there. They had to trademark it. They have to do
Yeah,
all of that before they put it out there
yeah.
because
They
they
didn't
never
even
know.
tell any. Right. So they trademarked it before they announced it. Right. But
Yeah.
I was talking with I forgot who I was talking with, and I said blue. No, I was talking with my trademark attorney, and I said I felt bad for the woman who had the event planning
Mm-hmm.
business because she'd had it for years, and they'd been in litigation for 6 years, and
Yeah.
I think they just settled in like August or September, and I guarantee they paid her something because
Yeah.
she was probably going broke just fighting this. And she'd had
Yeah.
this company way before
For
Blue
years.
Ivy was even born. And I said, man, that is like just so horrible, right?
But
But
that's stories after story. Like Lady A, the blues singer Lady
yes,
A, and
when
Lady Antebellum.
antebellum, yep,
That's why you never like even when I say to artists, right? I use an analogy, like we were talking about the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Like
right,
I'm 40, right? So when I was younger, those that was on TV and it was on like VHS, right?
right,
But think about now it's streaming. Like there's streaming platforms. So
right,
were those people's contracts renegotiated because of the streaming platforms?
right.
Or did it just like, oh no, we're gonna keep it for like no, that's like a song. Like you can write a song today and 25 years from now still make money from that same song.
Well, a
It could
lot.
become
No, go ahead. It can
no,
become
I was gonna say it could become the staple wedding song, a staple funeral song, a heartbreak song. It could become any one of those staple
yeah.
things forever.
Well, it's funny because when you mentioned oh, what were we talking about? So I was when you mentioned Lady A and Lady Antebellum, what I thought was so fucked up about that situation is that singer had been using that name for
Name for
decades,
decades.
and they had trademarked that, and then were like, I think they were trying to share it with her, and she was like,
Yep.
"No, I've been using this name." And then finally, they were like, "Nope, now we don't want you to use it at all."
Yep. But that's the crazy thing is that happens every day,
Yeah,
all the time. And
yeah,
that's why I'm just saying, that's when I talk to artists, I say, you might not think that you need to do this right now, but this is something you need to invest in right now, because later on you will see the return on that.
yeah. And it's even with I think when there was something I was reading some contract and it said anywhere in the universe, like they put universe in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, but that was on the side of the music label, and I'm like, y'all better have that on your side. Like, if my music is
It's
played
they have it. They
perpetuity,
have it now. It's perpetuity. I'm like, you
nah,
guys don't read. You guys
you know
not
what
reading
perpetuity
that.
is,
That means for your life, your kids' life, your kids'
right?
kids' life, Earth.
Right.
Period.
But it's, and that's the thing. That's why, I talk to attorneys. I've talked to people like you because I'm like, A, I want people to understand the business, but B, I want them to know that there are other avenues they can take. Just like, you
Yeah.
said you initially were going to be a songwriter. You said that's not where the money resides. So now I'm going to, further my education and get into, producing and into management and really kind of like look at it from that other direction. And
Yeah.
and like, speaking of money, this is, I saved the best for last, right? What is the best way to keep track of your money? Because one thing, my mom always told me is sign all your checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, years and years ago, I went to like this billboard something or other in Atlanta, and they had a man talking about a system that tracks your royalties, where you can like call in, and they said people are missing like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
Millions of royalties.
talk about that.
So that's why I encourage artists. I say, if you're getting ready to release anything, if you just wrote a song and you like, let me go share it on Facebook. Everything is monetized. So I tell artists, whether you're with ASCAP or BMI, CSAC, Global Music Reports, whatever music performance rights organization you are with, register your songs. They have they keep a record of how many times it's played, where it's streamed, how many times it's sold. You got to register there. There's so many different places you need to register, but if you don't know that you need to register, but register your music. Also, catalog your own music. Don't wait for someone else to do it. Keep a record for yourself. If you know that you're going to the studio with Future, make sure you have a split sheet. But Future is a big artist. Who cares? Future gonna get his money and he gonna go home and do whatever he was doing, and you gonna be sitting there like, but yeah, I was in the studio with Future. No, register your music, keep track of it, keep receipts. That's why you need a professional certified accountant to make sure that all of these things are kept.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Like, how much did you spend on the video? Like, if you're dropping videos every month, it's like.
But I think about Michael Jackson videos. I think about videos when he would shut down major networks just to release. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. It was like aired on Fox and ABC. Or what was that song where he had this is before even before they even had green screen or anything, when he had like a whole army of people. Remember that? What song was that? It was a whole army.
I want to say not black or white. They don't really care about us.
It might have been, because there was a huge statue of him in that video. I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, those were like mini movies, right?
Make sure you have a sync license while you're doing that. But anyways,
what's a sync license?
That's what you need in order to put music to videos. You gotta have.
If I smoked, I would have a cigarette right now. Just listening.
If you need a sync, any time music is attached to videos, there should be a sync license for it.
Wow. I didn't even. No, I just like, there's stuff that you've talked about that I've heard of before, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand. But I've never heard of a sync license.
Yeah, so when you hear people be like, "Oh, I'm trying to get sync deals. I'm trying to get publishing," it's like, if you have a publishing company, if you have Harry Fox, if your music is streamed, like there's licenses that needs to accompany things. But
Right.
most artists don't know that they should have a publisher. They're go and sign publishing deals, and it's like you could be your own publisher. You could register your
Yeah.
own music. You can have Harry Fox, and you can license your own music out to these different
Yep.
Pelotonic, Apple, you can license it to jukeboxes. You can do that on your own. But
Right.
that's because they don't understand what it means. So they're like, hey, can you help me get sync? I'm trying to get sync. They think sync is video games and movies. And it's just
Yeah.
like anytime you put your video music to a video, there has to be, it's like when if you watch YouTube videos and people are like, oh, I just got a copyright strike, it's like because you use someone else's music in your
Right.
video.
And that happened to me, and I didn't know that was a lesson learned. Fortunately, nobody like sued me, but like when I do my videos, if I'm interviewing an artist, I might play a clip of their music, and then
Mm-hmm.
YouTube sends me something and says, "Hey, this has been copyrighted." No one said anything, but just letting you know you can't monetize this video. And I'm like,
Video,
all
yeah.
right, well, fine, whatever. But that's really good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, if you think about, like, I be telling artists, like, when you have a sit down with the, do you sit down with the videographer? Oh no, well, we just come. So you just pay somebody money and you don't have a contract. It's just, I give you money, you give me a video, that's it. Like, you don't know the metadata needs to go into your video.
Yeah.
What?
Let
Yeah,
me tell you
there's supposed to
something.
be metadata in your video.
My day job is TV. Okay. So it's like I'm on the other side of it. So I'm not in like, TV shows, but I'm in telecommunications. So I mean, when I tell you we have metadata meetings every week, when I
Yeah.
tell you there's a contract if you sneeze on set and it causes us to have to reshoot
Redo.
scene,
Yeah.
it is deep. You know what I mean? And I think, golly, I should have
Yeah.
known. I should have known that there would be something called this. What what else don't I know, Aichelle? What tell
I,
me.
I know it's so many, like that's what I'm saying, like it's so much. Like I tell artists, like there I have a infograph, I can send it to you. I have an infograph that I tell artists that they should leave the studio with. Like, of course we're not open. I don't know where you live, but we're not open. So I'm like, the last year, yes, it sucked, but you should have learned, like there's so many virtual opportunities that you can take advantage of, but everyone's just like chilling. So I'm like, okay, let me send out this infograph.
Yeah.
If you're going to the studio, you don't just walk out with your song. You need the files, you need the stems, you need performance tracks, you need acapella, you need
Yeah.
instruments, you need all these different tracks. But they're like, oh, what do I need that for? You don't plan to send it to DJs? You don't plan to perform? Like,
I remember
these are
that's
these are things
vital.
you should have.
And I'm gonna hold you to that sheet because that's something, yeah, that I would really want
Yeah,
to study.
I would definitely send it to you.
But I remember when I had recorded some song. I had actually it was an EP, and I had gotten into a little dispute with like my management at the time. So anyway, I had gotten into a little dispute with them, and we had been going to this studio, which was a friend of theirs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they were trying to hold, and this was my lesson because I had some of the
Oh,
music, but they were trying to hold my masters and hold everything that I did
yeah,
because the guy in the studio said, "You're the one that paid for all the sessions. So here you go." So he
yeah,
gave me everything because they were always coming up short anyway. I was paying for this stuff. And then when I got a new producer, they were trying to badmouth me to him. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "You don't know like your business."
yeah,
They were
yeah.
like, "You can't do that if she's been, paying for this.
Paying for it, yeah.
These are her tracks." So fortunately, because I was like a little nervous, at first. I'm like, I can't get my tracks. And then the guy was like, "Don't worry about this, Zach. Here you go."
We got you. You
Right.
good.
But, again, educating yourself. And
Yeah.
I'm learning that through
Listen,
trial and error, right?
there's artists that go to a studio, right, and they record with a specific engineer or producer, and then the producer takes a, what if he takes a wellness month or wellness 2 months, or
Yeah.
just decide he never going to produce again?
Right.
What are you going to do? Like there's a situation here in Wisconsin that happened, and one of the well-known like engineers, he like went on a wellness retreat. Like he just wanted to take a break, and I guess he didn't say anything to anybody, so all the people that was recording with him was like, what am I supposed to do? How? And I'm like, wait, you left your stuff there? Like you didn't think to
Yeah.
get the files, take a jump drive, hard drive with you to the...
Yeah.
No, it's just the basic things like that is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Saving you more money now than in the long run, because then they're going to try to charge you. Now I got to go in here and bounce down the files, got to put them on your hard drive.
Right.
That's an extra fee for you. You can save it while you're right there. Go ahead and bounce all that down, sir, and give it to me.
Oh my gosh. This is like the way that I'm going to be texting you just in general in life is, don't get annoyed.
No,
I'm
no,
letting
that's
you know
fine.
now.
I told you I'm here. That's what I'm here for.
Is there anything else that you think that people should know that isn't covered, that I didn't cover today? Because I know we talked about primarily music, but actually this is another thing. Music when it comes to film.
So that's when it's important for you to be registered with ASCAP, BMIC, SAG, Global Music Reports, any one of them, because now we're getting into cue sheets.
Okay.
And cue sheets, if you create anything or if your music is used in a film, a documentary, a short, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you are registered with the performance rights organization and that you know how to fill out a cue sheet.
Right.
Because if you don't, you won't get paid. Or you'll get paid whatever money that they give you.
Right.
But there's so much more on the back end. And then that crossed over into SAGDRA. I don't even know how to say the word, but the Screen Actors Guild Alliance or whatever that is, it crosses you over into there because now you're film and music.
Let me tell you about what's going to happen. All right. Because I know that you have things to do. We're going to have like a part 2 of this, and we're
by me.
And it's going to be good. Like it's because I definitely want us to talk like kind of offline and try to figure out, like, break it down really, like streamline it. Because it's stuff like this that I'm so intrigued about, because I'm like, oh man, if I knew, or if they knew. And I see these people with these chains. I almost caught myself doing it. I saw a chain online. I was like, oh, that's nice. And I'm like, I got to pay another $900 for my trademark. All right, let me just... I mean, the
chill out over here.
The chain wasn't even that expensive. It was like $50, but I was just like, well, but I still have to pay hundreds for, whatever. So, please tell everyone where they can find you, and then we're doing something else.
You can find me anywhere at Aisharai, ISHARAI, Artist Management. Sometimes it's spelled MGMT, but it's still Aisharai Artist Management. And I am Aichelle, AICHELLE, White, everywhere. I'm literally everywhere. YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere where every artist should be.
Everywhere you should be. Thank you so much for being on Talent You Should Know. Everyone, remember to look for Aichelle White everywhere. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Talent You Should Know. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well as leave a review. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.